This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone. Look at the moon. What a perfect way to start the sunrise safari of today. They happen every day, as you know, but every day is just a little bit different. And the moon has just been so glorious to us all recently, especially as you look over quarantine and just see all the bare, naked marulas that just look cold. You can get a glimpse of the Earth's shadow and that gorgeous belt of Venus. So there will be two wonderful safari vehicles bringing you joy from Djuma Private Game Reserve, but we will also be coming to you live from Ngala, Pinda, and Bushwalk at Pridelands. So wrap up, everyone. It's extremely cold, and get ready because it's that time of day for your live bumble through the bush. Welcome aboard, everyone. It's a great choice to jump on board with us today, in the heart of winter here in the Lowveld, at least, in South Africa. And if you look at that moon, it's actually 94.4% full now. We're past full moon, and we're now in the waning gibbous phase. As the moon is getting fuller towards full moon, that's the waxing phase. And when it's waning, it's getting smaller again, going towards the new moon. My name is Lauren, and I do have BK on camera today. That's his thumb, no gloves on. We're both being very brave for the time being. It's definitely not as cold as it was a few days ago. But we are just going to bumble a little bit forward because we're on quarantine. Our camp is right behind us, but we're not being lazy by coming to quarantine. It's really the most perfect place to check. A lot of animals use this open area. You can hear because it's nice and open. You can see tracks and you can visually see all around. So it's a perfect place to start your morning. But before I forget, I must remind you that this safari is live and interactive. It happens as you see it, and you can talk to us. So please do send in all your questions. We do need questions on a very cold day. Keeps us ticking over. And your comments. You send them in using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter or at FC on the YouTube chat, or you can even head over to the WildEarth website. And as long as you've registered, you can submit your questions under the live safari page. And before I do forget, kids, you are so important to us. Please do send in any questions that you have, anything about South Africa, really, and we'll do our best to answer them. Send them in via email, and the email address is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Look, we're just getting the start of that sunrise over there. It's not quite popped out yet. You can just see it starting to pop up. The sky, oh, Beaky's going to give a little wipe. There we go. Look at that. This is why we start on quarantine. I have no plans. It's Tristan's last drive. I'm feeling sad. I love working with Tristan. It is just the best. We have the jolliest time, all four of us. For a while, not his last drive, just for this stint. And so we're just going to bumble, see whatever we can find, explore Djuma. I would love to obviously catch up with the Djuma clan, you all know that. And I'm going to guess, I could be wrong, but I think Tristan would like to find a leopard. What do you think, Beaks?
I think so.
Possibly, yes, possibly. But let's just take a moment to appreciate this gorgeous scenery in front of us. It's such a beautiful morning. We're going to bumble on, but let's take a look at the weather across all our locations.
Well, it is not too cold a day today, which is good news. Certainly a lot warmer than it has been, so it seems like we'll have a nice morning. I say that with gloves and beanie and all kinds of other things. Anyway, my name is Tristan on camera. I've got David.
Hello.
It's nice to be out on drive for one last morning for a while. With WildEarth, that is. I'll be on Djuma this afternoon anyway, just with guests. But as you can see, we've got some Ellies and a sunrise. So we've got both things that can make for a perfect start to the day. Sun just slowly creeping up over the horizon to provide some much needed warmth. Is that so, David? Yes, indeed. Wonderful. And like I say, it's going to slowly heat up, I'm sure, as that sun comes up. And in the meantime, the little Ellies are having a good go at feeding. It's not just this little baby, I promise. There's a whole group of them. Mom is behind a termite mound, a little bit obscured. And then the rest of the herd has already crossed the road, heading kind of into a big deep block. So I'll just wait for these guys to do the same. This little one is being very cute, as little baby elephants can be. It's still a bit wobbly this morning. I wonder if it's only just woken up. Shame, little one. I love little baby elephants. They are the most wonderful things from a entertainment point of view. They're always up to something, and between their ridiculous ears and their wobbly nature and this trunk that seems to be uncontrollable at that age, they make for some of the cutest little moments. Do baby Ellies, you see it's wanting to go back to where mom is, or what I think is its mother. I don't see any other elephants around, so I'm pretty sure the one behind the mound is mom. It's crazy though, you can't even see her behind this mound. I don't know if she's... Oh, there I can just see her ear now. She's coming around. That's very, very cute. David, I'm going to try to go forward for you a little bit, just so you can get a better view. Have a little adventurer going up on the mound. It also looks like it's about to go to the toilet too. Do you see how the trunk is not quite working as well as it wants to work? So instead of trying to use the trunk always to pull the grass, sometimes it'll actually just put its face there and use its mouth to pull bits off. It's still learning the ways of the trunk and how to best use it. Darcy Malay is adorable, isn't he? A cute little thing. Most baby elephants are, like I say, they're always full of some sort of mischief and attitude and cute sort of, what would I say, what would the right word be? Cute behavior is probably a good way to put it. They constantly are entertaining. I always enjoy watching little baby elephants as they go about things. The problem with them sometimes is that they can get you into trouble, because they sometimes do things and then they fall or they complain, and that brings the whole herd into play. I remember I was in the Kruger National Park last year, end of last year, right up far north, and there's a section there where you go on these kind of roads right up against a riverbed, and it's got all these little loop roads. And we came down from one loop through like a little drainage and then up on the other side. And as we were coming through the drainage, there was a little baby elephant on the left with its mother. And they were feeding and taking it very, very easy. And as we kind of approached the dip, the baby elephant crossed the road. So, you know, I just kind of sat there for a while, and mom wasn't too interested, and the baby elephant was fine. So I kind of went through past the mother, and was just going up the dip, and this little baby elephant went out of control. It just started screaming and running around like a hooligan, and it ran towards a whole herd. And as this was kind of happening, impalas just started to go crazy. So I'm pretty sure there was a leopard there as well, because I had found leopard tracks on that road going in that direction. But the impalas started going crazy. This little baby elephant went crazy, and this mother just decided, nope, not having any of it. And she turned, and she just was smashing tree after tree after tree as this little baby elephant, for some reason, was kind of like running next to us. It's very weird, because baby elephants don't normally do that. They normally turn back towards their mothers. And it caused this whole herd to spin out of control. And the next thing, we just had elephants charging at us from all directions. There was nowhere to go, really. So we had to kind of just sit tight and hold on for dear life and endure an uncomfortable 10 minutes of mother elephants all around the car screaming at us with a little baby panicking. But all calmed down and everything was okay. The little baby was fine and mom settled down and we all were okay. But we didn't find the leopard, which is a little bit sad. Anyway, we'll stay with our Ellies and see what this little one gets up to. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Pridelands and JP to say good morning.
Good morning and welcome to WildEarth. We're live on Pridelands on Bushwalk, and at the moment we're just enjoying that beautiful sunrise. So most of the clouds that you can see there are stratiform clouds as well as cirriform clouds. They're actually very high clouds, and unlike the typical cloud, they consist of ice crystals, and they really allow for a beautiful sunrise. So my name is JP LaRue, and behind the camera we've got Paul. It's a nice chilly morning out here. We've been listening to some of the bird calls as if they were waking up. So a lot of the birds will call fairly early in the morning so that they can proclaim their territories, just to ensure that nobody else wants to take your spot. Some of the birds that we hear in the different distance is some crested franklins. They've been pretty noisy this morning. There's a few that were sitting quite close by to us, making a raucous sound. It's easy to actually identify them by their call, as they often have a very distinct call that goes like pump handle, pump handle, pump handle. Let's sit and listen and hear if we can hear any other birds that are calling. So hopefully in the next few months, as temperatures start increasing and the breeding birds arrive back and birds decide to start breeding again, we'll have a far greater morning dawn chorus of different bird calls.
We've just stopped again. Drive, stop, for two reasons. One is very cold. The more you drive, the colder you get. And two, listen, in winter, sounds travel from far. You get a crystal clear audio map of what's happening. And, of course, appreciate the sunrise. So that's what we're going to do. Just sit here just for a moment or two and appreciate the gorgeous scenes in front of us. Isn't it just gorgeous? What a great start. We're going to keep bumbling and see what else we can find.
Well, we're still with our herd of ellies and our little baby being adventurous and climbing to the top of this mound. Having a royal time up there. It's very, very cute. And I just want to keep quiet for a little bit. I thought I heard some wildebeest alarm calling, so I just want to hear if they still are. Seems like they're quiet. Maybe it was just the herd talking to each other. I did see a male trying to mount a female yesterday. So maybe he's feeling a bit frisky this morning and complaining at them. This little one climbing is all one needs for a morning of cuteness. David, I think if we roll back, we might have a better view. You know that. Come on, car. Is that nice, David?
Really nice.
Are you happy now? Wonderful. I like to keep David happy, everybody. It is quite nice, I must be honest. That's an interesting question, Tom. I would imagine the answer to that would probably be yes, but not in the sense that, I mean, obviously, what do we kind of deem to be sprained? I think maybe not sprained, that's probably the wrong word, but maybe muscle tears or muscle pulled muscles, maybe that's a better way to put it. But I'd imagine, yes, if they overexert it, they can maybe form little micro tears in the muscle fibers and, you know, be in a little bit of pain. But generally, they're pretty good at looking after the trunk and not overexerting themselves. They also must remember that they, like, imagine going to the gym, all right, and doing the same thing every single day. Can you hear alarms? Oh, David, let's go quickly because that's not going to last long. That's Kudu. That's coming. Let's try and see if we can get there quickly because they won't last long. Somewhere here. Yeah. It's difficult for David and I because beanies and all other nonsense that we have on and paraphernalia. Paraphernalia. Sounds like Rusty's fan belt wants to start giving nonsense again. We'll have to sort that out. down this side. Imagine it must be in this little drainage line somewhere, maybe Kalamba. She was seen last night crossing from Little Gari into Djuma. Where are the Wildebeest? Because they were also shouting. Alrighty, what do you think, David? Yeah, I reckon. Somewhere this side here. It's the problem with Kudu, they don't bark for long. They're very, very quick. And they finish. Just check up front here. No, Rusty, stop it. Hopefully we can spot the Kudu, then we at least know which area we're dealing with. I'd imagine it's somewhere in this little drainage line here. Kudu at this time of the day have already started to leave clearings and are into the thickets. So whichever animal this is it's, I think, walking inside here. I might be wrong. It might be hyena tracks here. But Kudu are nice and reliable. They're not unreliable alarm calling animals. Just like impalas, they're pretty good. Well, I heard it again here, David. So what we're listening for now is not only Kudu, but squirrel, francolin, anything else that can tell us where this cat would be moving. So maybe the Kudu have lost it, but because it's been shouted at, it's going to be moving, and that then triggers a chain of other alarm calls. Right, nothing that I can hear again. Problem is the next road down. Rusty, stop it. The next road down from here is quite far. They're somewhere in here, in this block. I'm just trying to see if I can spot them anywhere. Because once we can see the Kudu, then it makes life a lot easier. Just check nothing is coming out here. Kalamba likes to walk this little way here. Just comes out on this section. It's definitely here, David. have been nice if we could have just got one more that gave me a little bit more room to work with. Alright, let me just see if we can find where these kudu are, and hopefully once we found that, then we can be able to find who's causing the ruckus and the disturbance.
Hi, I'm Dee from the south coast of England. Today I was told I have won the most amazing prize to go to Marataba. Oh, I can't believe it. I became hooked on WildEarth last year when I was trying to escape COVID, and animals are my thing. I just love them and I love what WildEarth does. So that's why I wanted to become an explorer. Just so looking forward to going out to Marataba. Want to do a walking safari. Thank you so much, WildEarth.
WildEarth Explorers. It's in your nature.
Hi, I'm Nikki, your guide here at andBeyond in Ngala. So my favorite animal in the African bush definitely has to be the zebra, because like people, with our fingerprints, every single zebra has a different stripe pattern. And, of course, a group of zebras together is called the dazzle. How unique is that? Come and join me or one of my colleagues here in Ngala for a sunrise and sunset safari on WildEarth.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Hi everyone, my name's Daniel Fisher and I'm going to be your guide this afternoon. I'm looking really forward to taking you through and showing you all the beautiful places here at andBeyond in Ngala. If you have any questions, please register on our website. Once registered, go to the live page feed and post your questions underneath the live feed. Join me on my next safari through andBeyond in Ngala on WildEarth. Send me live questions through the WildEarth website and I'll answer them live from the African bush.
Well, still no luck with finding these kudu. So what I want to try and do, actually, I want to just quickly get up onto the crest here, and then I'm going to use some binos and just scan, see if I can spot them in this area. The nice thing is if you're a little higher up here on quarantine, you can see much better on that slope that's off the western side. If you are low down there, you can't see as well. I mean, obviously it's much closer to where we think the alarm call is coming from, but it's not helping from a point of view of being able to spot up the slope. From here you're seeing into the bush rather than kind of just seeing the thickets. You know, when you're slightly raised, you can pick up movement and sign a lot easier. I'm just trying to find there's a nice spot somewhere here where we've got a fairly decent ability to actually scan this western slope. Because for me, it was somewhere around this section, David. There's this gap here coming up that I think is going to be the right place. There. Let's have a look quickly with some binos and just see if we can't spot any sign of anything. So Victoria, it really depends on the lay of the land, temperature, all of those things will dictate how far you can hear it from. If it's very kind of cold, then often the call will carry a little bit further. If they're on the crest, it's being broadcast a little bit more with less interruption between you and them. So I would say normally this call was only probably about 1 kilometer away. It wasn't much more than that. But yeah, I don't see anything, David. Okay, you know what, let's go back around. Let's take a slightly different route. Just keep going as we go along this road here. I'm just going to keep an eye out and see if I see any movement. And I'll certainly stop and scan. I know it seems ridiculous, but you'll be surprised how much you can see from up here. Like elephants, see them clearly on this slope when you're up this high. Everything else, giraffe, I've seen kudu from up here as well, so that's why I like to come and just scan around. And the reason why I'm kind of going this way, so heading more north and not continuing southwards, is that so far I've checked the east and the north, and there's no tracks heading from this side in. So what that tells me is that the animal is either on a kill in there and has been found, or it's moving from south to north or west to east. And so if we're on this side, then we have a good chance of it popping out towards us rather than going further away from us. That's the idea, at least. Whether that comes into play or into fruition is, you know, the next thing, but it's definitely this side somewhere. Let's go check. There's like a little road that runs kind of east-west on the northern side of this block. So I'm going to check that road quickly. Somewhere here there is a cat lurking. I mean, most likely a leopard, but it could very well be a lion as well. The Talamatis were in the west yesterday, so they could very well be coming back. Not sure yet as to who this could be, but I mean, it could also be Mulawati, in which case we're fighting a bit of a losing battle, but we shall persevere and try nonetheless. I'm hoping that it's Kalamba. That's what I'm kind of hoping it is. Could even be Tingana. He's been using that block a lot lately. And yesterday we left him going into the west. He could have come back with all the commotion that's been going on that side. I know the tortoise pan was seen last night in the west. So very, 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 very possible that he's kind of coming back this way. But the last time we heard them was from here, and it sounded like straight south of us. So again. An African harrier hawk. As he's scraping around for food items. Fortunately, this terrible light is right against the sun. Maybe just see it flying in front of us here. Oh, just gliding, hunting this morning. Look at these flying over, David. See them higher up. Spoonbills. They look like spoonbills. Yeah, they are spoonbills. Nice. Haven't seen those for a while. Oh, the birds are out this morning. It's because it's warmer. Finally, it's not so cold today. I think our African harrier hawk is having a fine time looking for food. Alrighty, while we keep trying this area and just trying to see where we can find a track or any more sign, let's send you across to Damon and Pinda to say good morning.
Good morning from andBeyond Pinda Private Game Reserve, where we're out near to where we saw those lions last night. If you joined us yesterday, we're going to be searching for them this morning. It's a nippy, chilly morning, but there's some beautiful golden light at least. My name's Damon, behind the camera is Johan, and we've come back to the area where we last saw those lions yesterday. And I've been using my binoculars to scan onto the hillside there where we'd left them, just in case I didn't move too far. No sign of them just yet, so we're going to be driving down the road here, checking the road very carefully for tracks to see where they might have gone. Obviously, yeah, it's been quite a few hours since we last saw them, so these lions could have covered quite a big distance. Remember, yesterday evening, we were watching that lioness and she was looking very intently kind of off to her north at something. Couldn't see what she was looking at. But it might be an indication that she was looking to go and start hunting. We couldn't quite see their bellies, couldn't see how full or empty their tummies were. So yeah, I've got my binoculars up, looking out for that white belly, the white chest. Of a lion. Because of how chilly it is this morning, there's a pretty good chance these lions are going to be on the move. But as the sun starts to come out a bit, there's a very good chance that they'll go and look for a sunny spot to lie down. And also with the sun coming up and the air warming up a little bit in the morning, we should also have a pretty decent chance, as the morning wears on, of finding some rhinos coming out to sun themselves. So we'll definitely keep a lookout for them too. We're going to carry on down this road, keep checking for any signs of these lions. In the meantime though, let's go across to Lauren at Djuma.
We've been doing a bit of a boundary patrol. Don't fly away, you. And we'll come across the Birchall's cuckoo. It's on the ground. It's quite unusual. We're viewing it from a distance because these birds, as soon as you get close, they do fly off. But isn't that lovely? Really easy to identify. Immediately from that sort of black head and really chestnutty, rufous wings. And they're very large birds, so they catch your attention immediately. I'm not quite sure what it's doing on the ground here. I would guess trying to keep warm. But believe it or not, these birds they've got such a broad diet, which is a good thing for an organism's survival. The more they specialize, the more detrimental it is to their survival. And these birds will eat insects, and some are to very small reptiles like geckos, and eggs, if they find any reptilian eggs or birds' eggs. Other birds' eggs, obviously. And they're even known to eat small birds, like your waxbows. What are you doing, Mr. Cuckoo? They normally have a bright red eye, but it's actually impossible for me to tell from here. Oh, I'm going to cross the road. We are. Leopard lover, me too. They have really, really long tail feathers, and they're normally black. As with most birds, actually, not all, the tail feathers are actually very, very dark in color, black or really sort of dark brown, and that's because they've got a lot of melanin in them, and melanin strengthens the material. So it makes the tail feathers really, really strong, and that's exactly what most birds need for flight and for perching, for balance. Oh, it was a really lovely little sighting. Okay, we're gonna keep searching the boundary. The lions have made a kill on Nkoro, but I don't know what lions. I'm gonna guess Nkohumas, but we don't traverse Nkoro. And just a little update for you all, our radios are down. So we really can't communicate with other lodges. I will give you that update a little bit later, but for now, over to JP.
Good morning and welcome back to Bushwalk. We're still sitting at Ndlovu Dam. At the moment we're just enjoying the sunrise, the reflection of the light, and all these beautiful clouds that are coming in. And on the opposite end of the dam, we've also got a pair of Egyptian geese, which we've been watching for the most of the morning. Unlike the other pair that we found at Leopard Dam, these two don't have chicks at the moment. So to come back to them, the name geese is actually incorrect, as that they're actually taxonomically correct to be described as ducks. So quite often people ask, but why are they called geese? So when the early settlers arrived at the Cape, they named birds after things that they were familiar with back in Europe, and therefore, because of the sheer size of these ducks, they became known as a geese. So I also often get asked, what is the difference between a duck and a geese? And if we look at it, it's genetics as well as the amount of neck vertebrae. So generally when it comes to ducks, we find that they've got 16 or fewer neck vertebrae compared to that of geese, which has 17 up to 24 neck vertebrae, which is one of the things that separates them. In the whole of Africa, we only have one species of duck south of the Sahara, one species of geese south of the Sahara. All of the other species are all ducks. I also find it interesting with the name Egyptian geese, is that they used to occur in Egypt, and I have mentioned this on a number of occasions, but for those of you that are first-time viewers, it actually is interesting that they used to be inscribed, would be embalmed and then entombed in their thousands within the pyramids, and they were there basically for hunting in the afterlife. We also see that they often are part of the old Egyptian hieroglyphics as well. In general, we find that Egyptian geese are territorial for most parts of the year, and we also often see once they've occupied a waterhole that they will try and chase off any other pair that comes into that area. Very often they will sky point with their bills up and start making a noise with their wings open and showing white wing panels to tell that other pair that they must move off. If that warning is not heeded, they normally follow them and chase them out of the territory.
Just checking our southern boundary. In the morning, you've got to keep moving. Time is of the essence. You really do want to catch animals before they start to go flat with that warmth of the sun, which will come, not right now. Got to keep moving. And boundary lines are a really, really good place to check for tracks coming into your property. If they go out, well, that's not so great. So that's exactly what I'm doing now, just driving slowly, paying a lot of attention to the road, just trying to see what's happened. The only negative thing about a boundary line is it's driven a lot. There will have been at least 20 cars that have driven this road before us. But still, we're going to try and see if anything has crossed it. Four-way junctions are a great place to check. Let me see hyena and giraffe. Okay, now that I've got onto my next boundary line, we're just going to pull over and admire the views of our eastern firebreak. Listen to all the birds for the morning. we're going to keep checking the eastern boundary now, which is a little bit quieter, and hopefully we find some tracks.
You're back with us here at andBeyond Pinda, where Johanna and I are still on our search for this pride of lions. We've come across a bachelor herd of some absolutely magnificent Kudu bulls. Have a look at that one there in the foreground. And look at those lovely markings on his face. See that white chevron between his eyes when he turns sideways? Oh, look at those white spots on his cheeks. Absolutely magnificent. And look at those horns. I suppose they're relatively impressive, but there's a bull to his right that is an absolute behemoth of a Kudu bull. He's a bit tough to see though, so we'll stick with this one for now. See how alert and vigilant he is, this Kudu bull. Now, the bush that he's walking through doesn't look terribly dense from here. See, there's a couple of green guarri bushes and then a patch of yellow grass, but it is deceptively thick in there. Lots of low-growing shrubs, low-growing bushes. And so these Kudu, as they move and as they feed, they'll stop frequently just to listen. Look at the size of those ears. Those massive ears adapted for a life in dense bush, where you can't always rely on your eyes to detect the presence of danger. Of course, those big ears will then allow them to hear the slightest footfall. A lioness accidentally standing on a dry twig. Charles, you're asking if Kudus always move in a herd. Charles, not always. So normally females and youngsters will be in groups together. If there's a female in estrus, she may be joined, the herd may be joined by a bull as he courts her. And then males like this will often move in little groups, in little bachelor herds. But sometimes you can find Kudu bulls also by themselves. But in my experience, and at least here at andBeyond Pinda, typically you'll see little groups of them. Although I suppose we do see bulls on their own relatively frequently as well. But there is definitely that whole safety and numbers factor. There's at least 3 or 4 bulls in this little group. And if one of those bulls spots danger, like this pride of lions we're looking for, he'll give an alarm call. And you heard Tristan talking earlier about the Kudu alarm call, or Kudu's alarm calling, and how they can often be a big help as we search for predators. Got very, very, very sharp sense, like we said, their hearing, their eyesight, their sense of smell. And they've got a deep, booming, characteristic alarm call. It sounds like a dog, like a Great Dane barking. It's a deep, oh, oh. That was my best attempt at trying to imitate one. Yeah, a very deep, booming sound. So a sound that we'll be listening out for carefully while we search for these lionesses this morning. Daniel, you're saying you love their horns. Daniel, I think you are not alone in your admiration of Kudus and of their horns in particular. I think there's a lot of people, myself included, that are just absolutely mesmerized by those spiral-shaped horns. And yeah, just something absolutely majestic. To watch a big Kudu bull, that big thick neck, those massive long spiral-shaped horns on his head, really is a sight to behold. I suppose it's a bit like our version of seeing like a big elk bull in the United States. You know, those massive elk, and they get those huge horns, or antlers rather, not horns. See again how he stops to listen. There was a slight increase in the intensity of the wind. The wind's not blowing very hard. It is quite chilly, but there are gusts that are blowing in from the north. northwest. So just with that increase in the wind speed, just causing him to stop and listen, sniff the wind. And he's been rather obliging, because the rest of his group have kind of moved off into the bushes where they're hard to see. Andrew, you're asking if both male and female kudus have horns. Andrew, no, it's only the males that have horns in kudu. Typically speaking, Andrew, most of the antelope species in South Africa that have, well, where there's, excuse me, where there's both males and females that have horns, they tend to live in like much more open areas, things like gemsbok or oryx, sable, roan. They're both males and females have horns. But animals like Ngala and impala, kudu, I suppose there are some exceptions to that rule, so that's, yeah, but here we go, Andrew. I've got a picture here in the book if you'd like to see of, so there are two bulls, and there as well, also two bulls, and there's the kudu cow, the female. See how she's missing, or doesn't have horns.
Just pick it up a little higher.
Oh, there we go.
Stay down, okay.
Yeah. So it looks like that kudu bull is still looking in our direction. And I think it might just be us kind of moving around that keeps getting his attention. He's pretty busy with that bush that he's been feeding on. We've been trying to see exactly what it is that he's been eating. There's a lot of guaris growing out here, but I don't think it's a guari that he's feeding on. From here I can see there's a couple of creepers growing in there. Woolly caper bush, some bush cherries. And that seems to be where he's feeding. Trying to think of some more antelope examples where both males and females have horns. Andrew, I think, yeah, obviously Wildebeest. Both males and females have horns. Daniel, you're asking if kudus are browsers and grazers. Daniel, they're pretty strictly browsers. That's what they mainly feed on, mainly leaves of trees. I don't think I've ever seen one feeding on grass. There's another younger bull that's just joined him at the back, or similarly aged bull. See how these ones have got, or both of these bulls, especially the one that's closer to us. See how his horns kind of bend out and then twist once, and then they're starting another twist. That really big bull that's here in this group, he has got, like I said, some absolutely magnificent horns. And at least the naked eye, they look to be a good 1.5 times as long, or a good, yeah. As long as these horns are plus another half. They're really, really massive, and I just wish he would come back in this direction so we could see him. But I think we've had a pretty nice sighting of these kudu. It's been wonderful to get to spend a bit of time with them being so obliging and not moving away down into the little dip. So Johan and I are going to leave them, and we're going to keep on searching for this pride of lions.
Hello, my name is Marnie Kell from the Greater Toronto area of Ontario, Canada.
I am most excited to meet some of the guides that I feel I already know. And I'm going to very much enjoy riding along with them to see what they see most days while they're broadcasting these safaris to us, while also staying at the beautiful Simbambili Lodge. WildEarth has brought so much to my life, and I am thrilled and grateful to have this opportunity. Thank you.
Sign up to be an explorer today, and it could be you jetting off on an all-expenses-paid-for safari experience. WildEarth Explorers. It's in your nature.
There's a grounding earthiness to this place that we feel in our ancestors. It's a place where, believe it or not, we evolved as a human species, and anyone who's come to Africa will understand that. The connectivity that the continent has to the person and to people's souls is next level. I'm thoroughly looking forward to taking you on your next adventure when we explore all the small and big things.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oh.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Hello, I'm Marna, your WildEarth Safari Guide from andBeyond Ngala. What I really like about connecting with WildEarth viewers is that we get to speak to viewers instantly, and I get to show you this beautiful property. If you want to ask me a question, register on the WildEarth website. Simply head over to the live safari page and you can submit your questions there. Join me or one of the other guides twice a day on WildEarth.
It wouldn't be a drive along Cheetah Cut Line if you didn't find zebra these days. But I can only see 2, and normally there are more. I'm wondering where the others are. Zebras are utterly fascinating to me. I think they are really, really fascinating animals. And between those, if you think of black and white, I guess they're not technically colors, they're classified as shades. But if you think of the contrast between black and white, you don't want to be wearing black on a really, really hot day, do you? Because it absorbs the heat and you feel hot. You want to be wearing white so it reflects and you're not absorbing those rays and getting hotter as you sit there sweating in the sun. So if you think of the stripe, black, white, black, white, black, white, they're absorbing heat at different rates. And because of this, it's actually said to create sort of really small-scale convection currents on the surface of the zebra's skin. And this sort of assists in their thermoregulation. The black stripes are said to be around 12 degrees Fahrenheit, that is, hotter than the white. So because of that, it creates really, really small-scale and very, very minor sort of convection currents across the zebra's skin. I don't want to turn on my engine. I do think they're going to pop out into the open. If they don't, we'll move. But zebras also have the unique, really surprising ability to actually raise the hair on their black stripes only. Like velvet. You know when you touch velvet? Whereas the white ones remain flat. So not only is white and black, there's one on the road peaks, white and black absorbing at different rates in terms of heat, they also have different heights. So the black ones, the hairs can raise up and then go down, so it's almost undulating on a very small scale across the zebra's body. And this is also assisting in thermoregulation because it's assisting with the transfer of heat from the skin to the hair. And even in the morning, okay, it's cold, it's definitely not warm. So normally the stripes will sort of be at the same temperature. There's no air movement. And the raised black hairs are trying to trap air to keep them warm rather than cool them down. So they're able to completely control their thermoregulation just from the stripes alone. So by raising the black hairs, trapping air on those black stripes, they're trying to reduce heat loss. Keep warm, and then obviously as they get warm, that will change. I think that's amazing. They can raise the black hairs and not the white. Dream, you're saying they have amazing stripes? Well, yes. They do have stripes, that's for sure. The stripiest animals you get out here. And it's pretty to the eye, but it just amazes me, well, to the human eye. I guess to a lion, they feel a little bit different about that. But it just amazes me what the stripes are actually doing for the animal. And it's mostly in thermoregulation. Incredible. Anyway, we're going to continue scratching around Cheetah Cutline, and hopefully we're going to get lucky with some tracks.
Good morning and welcome back to Bushwalk. We're still close by to the dam, and we're just busy looking at how the weather has changed and how these clouds have drastically come in. The temperature has also dropped very rapidly, and it's really, really cold. There's a few times that Paul was battling to keep his camera still, and I was shaking so badly at one point that I could barely speak. At the moment I'm watching a number of giraffe that's coming a little bit closer by to the dam, and I hope that they're going to come in for a drink. There's also some impala in the distance, and when I look at them, we can all see how their hairs are slightly raised this morning, and they don't have that typical sleek appearance or shiny appearance to the coat. And the reason why they do that is to trap air underneath their coats, so that they can maintain a more consistent body temperature. So most mammals have a defining characteristic of being covered by hair. And this is one of the things that has made them successful to exploit a wide range of different habitats. We also see feathers in birds. This enables them to regulate their temperature and maintain a more consistent body temperature by trapping air underneath the feathers. It's also interesting that some of the earliest of reptiles also started developing feathers. It was considered at one stage that he was for ornamental purposes, and eventually they became more and more abundant all over the body. This also suggested that they underwent a partial endothermic change, so where they no longer were dependent on external temperatures only, but started developing the ability to burn carbohydrates and fats to maintain a consistent body temperature. Because feathers is never a great idea if you want to, as a reptile, to try and keep a consistent body temperature. Our giraffes are coming slightly closer and closer, and hopefully they will come to the dam in the next 10 or so minutes and come and have a drink. So we're going to move off and go and see if our giraffes are going to come in. And in the meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Damon and see what the guys are up to in Pinda.
Johanna and I don't seem to be able to find anything except kudu bulls this morning. We've just been remarking how we hardly ever get to see a kudu bull here and how special it is every time we do see one. And I think we've just seen number 8 for the morning. Unfortunately, though, none of them have been nearly as obliging as those first few that we saw in terms of us trying to get them on camera. They all seem to be rather keen on moving out of the area. But we're still searching for this pride of lions, everybody. And the plan is to check towards the last place that we saw them. We'll drive the road that kind of was on the western side of where the lions were lying, and we'll check that road very carefully for tracks. And if they haven't kind of gone across that road that way, then we'll go and check to the south of them, to the east of them. We've already checked north of where they were. And often when we're searching for any animal really, if we know where they were last seen, very important to kind of drive a loop around the area to make sure that there aren't any of their tracks coming out of that area. If their tracks aren't coming out, then we know that they must still be in there somewhere. But we're going to keep on searching here. Let's go back to Tristan and see what he's up to.
Well, we're with these Ellies at the moment. We're just getting the run around. Like, we go one side of the block and hear alarm calls, and then on the other side of the block the alarm calls start. But there was impalas that went absolutely buck wild. But it was just too far for me to know exactly where it was. I could just faintly hear them. And then one of the vehicles from the western sector that was on Triple M could hear them too. And they also think that, you know, when impalas go buck wild like that, it can often be an indication that one's been killed. But it was long enough that I could pick it up, but just couldn't get close enough to actually know which ones it is. So we kind of came to these elephants and this herd of impalas on our left, just to try and listen here and see if we can pick anything. It's not the same area as where we had the Kudu alarm calling. That's why I'm a bit kind of confused by it. Maybe we're just with the wrong herd of impalas. But we need to just go back down this road again and check carefully. Yeah, they were saying that it wasn't too far from Triple M, which would make sense here because where they were was with these elephants when they heard it. So it's just kind of the right place, but just no sign as yet. And with elephants walking around, it's going to make life even more tricky. Move back though and just see if we can get a better view. This light is going to hammer us, David. The impalas came out right where the elephants are going in now. So if there is anything, then maybe, just maybe, they'll flush it for us. It's weird. I don't know. Could be these impalas, David. But they came from this side, so maybe we just do Aubrey's Road round and just check if we're lucky with some tracks. I still haven't seen a single track yet. And that Kudu that was alarm calling was definitely alarm calling towards quarantine. We found the Kudu coming out of the block from where we kind of thought the alarm call was coming from. So I don't know if that leopard somehow maybe got across in some way and into this section. I have no idea, but the problem is if it has made a kill and we haven't found that area, it's going to be very, very difficult to locate it. I just know that the impalas came from this side, so we'll scratch this, and if nothing, then I'm going to head slowly back down towards that sort of western side of quarantine in case, because of the coldness, the sound is just traveling that much further. But given how far it was for me and my ears, it must have been more this way than it was closer to quarantine. You know, if it had been like kind of that sort of area where we had heard the Kudu, we should have heard where I was very, very clearly, which it didn't sound like that. It just sounded a little far. So yeah, let's check. Let's see what's happening. The thing with impalas is even if one is killed, they go crazy for a while and then it's just, you know, they leave the area. There's no reason for them to be staying if one has been brought down. You know, they don't have to kind of sit and watch it being fed on. They just make the noise, alert everybody, and then basically it's like, well, nothing else to do but to walk off. So it could very well be those impalas, and whatever happened inside this block. This block is an area where we've been seeing a lot of Tavangumi, Kara, Shadulu, Kalamba walks here a little bit. Mulawati's been here a lot lately. So there's a lot of options when it comes to this. Alright, I'm going to try and see if I can get round and see if we can pick up a track here somewhere.
Good morning and welcome back to WildEarth. We're still at the dam, just enjoying the sunrise and watching the clouds coming in. And they're coming in faster and faster at the moment, and the temperature has also dropped considerably over the last half an hour or so. It was so cold that at one stage I was actually struggling to talk, and the cameraman was struggling to keep the camera still. We've stabilized it in a very ingenious way with using some elephant dung, so that we can provide you a beautiful view of the surrounding dam. We'd like to encourage you just to enjoy the beauty of the landscape, the dam, as well as listen to the different sounds that nature has to offer. Some of the bird calls that we can hear at the moment is that of a crested francolin, which typically says pump handle, pump handle, pump handle. Another one that I can hear in the background is a blackback puffback. And then also a little brew-brew. A brew-brew almost sounds like an old telephone which you had to actually dial with your fingers. While the puffback has a very distinct sound that almost sounds like... There's one of my favorite little calls. Our crested franklin's calling in the background again, and then there's also some grey go-away birds. But we can hear in the distance. These birds get their name from the onomatopoeic sound that they produce, which sounds like if they say go away. Another distant call that I can hear is that of a striped kingfisher, which always reminds me of Guy Fawkes and fireworks, as it sounds like fireworks that are going off.
We've come across a herd of elephants. I'm overjoyed. Look at this one over here. Dirty bum. How on earth did you manage that? My goodness. I really don't know how this one managed to get so dirty there. But there's actually lots of them. And we're on Mamba Loop. The Mamba Loop's an interesting road. It is where Kalamba chose her den site, and although that cub unfortunately did not make it, it is still the sort of area of the Mulwati that Steve found her little cub. I see Tandy a lot on Mamba Loop, and apparently Kalamba was seen last night around Twin Dam, so we're just scratching around. But the update I was trying to give you earlier is that our radios are not working. We cannot talk to one another. Sporadically we hear a voice, but at the end of the day no one hears us, and I can't talk to Tristan. So it's challenging, but what we did find out last night from Mish was that the Talamatis 2 days ago were at Lightwood/Torchwood Dam. BK and I showed you them. And that evening the young intruder male showed up. I don't know who this male is. I've not seen him. I couldn't possibly ID him or tell you where he is coming from, but he's supposed to be quite young, almost similar to the youngest of the sub-adult males in terms of physique and size, and he was there that evening, again trying to sort of follow the Talamatis, and there was a bit of a standoff. I think they chased him away, but that's him present again. Now, I've not seen him, but he was definitely around. We got the update from Mish because sadly we're not getting the updates on the radio. Talamatis also tried to hunt a rhino calf again that night. They weren't successful, but that's twice in the space of a week and a half the Talamatis have tried to do that. This young male is interesting. Who is he? The other Talamatis are with the ones that have cubs are with the S8 male. I always say S8 males. Sorry, it's S8 male up the northern side of Buffelshoek. And I'm sure you've heard about the Avokas, but it does appear Mohawk and Blondie are causing a bit of trouble down south. They're really pushing far down south. And Blondie has been seen killing the Ngala Pride cubs. I believe it's 2. But don't quote me on that, I could be wrong. Again, that's infanticide, which does happen in lions. Male lions will not raise offspring that they don't believe are theirs. So even if the offspring are genetically not theirs, but they believe that they are, then they'll raise them. But if they don't believe they are, then that's when infanticide occurs. I'm so happy I found Ellie's and it's starting to get a little bit warmer. $375. Hello, 375. 7's my favorite number, and I also do really like 3. 5, not so much, but hey. It really depends. They go through quite a seasonal shift in their diet. And this winter, I must say, is so different on opposite ends of the scale to the winter of 2018, for example, when I first arrived. So it really does depend on which season you're in and what type of season that is. Is it a rough one? Is it a drought? Is it lush? But generally speaking, it's grasses. Elephants adore eating grasses. There's different types of grasses. Some are extremely palatable to some species, some not so much. And during the summer, that's mainly what they'll feed on. Along with marula fruits, they absolutely love marulas. And marulas are actually really high in vitamin C, 4 times that of an orange. And it's about 10 times smaller than an orange, so it's packed. And they do love the cambium layer. That provides a whole other layer of nutrients for them as well as moisture. But in the winter, they have to make shift. If you look at the grass, if BK can just zoom out, you'll see it's all dry. Most of it's dead. It doesn't retain any more moisture. So they are still eating it, but there's no way that it will contain as much nutrition. So that's why we now see them sort of gleaning all the leaves off branches. They're now doing a lot of more browsing. I'm going to go forward a little bit. And they're now eating a lot more branches themselves and twigs. So winter normally has a bit of a harsher effect on their molars, bigger impact. Whereas summer, everything's soft, everything's moist, everything's delicious. So they adapt their diet. They also sort of adapt their diet. Hello. It's very area dependent as well. So for example, in the Masai Mara, they eat grass for about 80 to 90% of the year. That's the bulk of their diet annually. So the elephants in the Mara are said to live just a little bit longer because the impact to their molars is not so severe. Whereas here in the Lowveld, they make quite a dramatic shift, believe it or not. Their diet is said, statistically, on average, to compose 80% of grass in summer and 20% sort of shrubbery. And that is completely the opposite in winter. So it's 80% shrubbery and twigs and branches and 20% of the grass. So it really does depend what season you're in. But we're having to look at this little one. We're having to protect the marulas around here using wire because the nutrition in the cambium layer for elephants, which is a living tissue inside of a tree, is so delicious that they really, really go for it, and indirectly they can really damage the trees around here. What's happening here? sweet. You know, these young ellies they're really relaxed around vehicles. I find the whole ambience of elephants very relaxed right now. Again, going back to that sort of really rough winter we had, there was just no water anywhere. The tension among elephants was high. They were stressed. Oh, it was a very different scenario. It's amazing. 3 winters later, and it's a completely different story. Opposite sides of the scale. Let me just go forward, Beaks. Just want to make sure there's no ellies sneaking up on us. Amy, I'm going to answer your question in just a moment. I always just approach ellies very, very carefully. Amy, you're asking, do elephant tusks ever stop growing? And no, they don't. It is based on genetics, just like your teeth will completely differ from mine. I had braces for 5 years of my teenage life. Oh, goodness. I will not forget that. That was not pleasant. The old train tracks, they call them. And your size, your shape, everything would differ because genetically we're different. So genetics does play a big role, but tusks never stop growing. And usually in mammals, tusks are actually enlarged canine teeth, but in elephants, they're elongated incisors. And they just continue to grow throughout its lifetime. But naturally, you've got to combat that with the fact that they will be wearing down. They do use them to dig up things in the ground. They do use them to fight if they're males. And naturally, they use them to pick off the bark on trees. So they will wear down. They're not going to just continually to grow out of control, but they do essentially keep growing. They're basically tools for foraging. And some adults just develop massive tusks. Huge, huge tusks. And some at the same age have much smaller tusks, or even none at all, which is said to generally be caused by a recessive gene. But when you see the older bulls, they really do sort of use their tusks in fighting much less as their competitive spirit, shall we say, wanes, and they sort of reach that gentleman phase of life. It's all very much genetics. The size, the shape, the length. The heaviest pair of tusks ever on record, I believe they're now in a British museum somewhere, I don't know where, is from Mount Kilimanjaro. And one tusk weighed 102.7 kilograms and the other tusk weighed 97 kilograms, because they differ. Elephants do have one tusk that will be heavier and longer, and one that will be much more worn down, and that's the master tusker. Just like we are left or right-handed. Some people are skilled enough to be ambidextrous, but generally we have one dominant side. The dominant side will be the shorter tusk because they're using it more. And the heaviest pair of tusks from the Kruger weighed in at 73.5 and the other weighed in at 69. So it's not quite as heavy as the heaviest pair on record, but still, that is a phenomenal weight. I don't think I could lift that. BK probably could. He's got big muscles. But I couldn't, for sure. So although tusks continue to grow, it's worth noting that they don't regrow. So once the damage is done at sort of the nerve or the root, if they've been snapped off, they're not going to regrow a tusk. But they will keep regrowing as long as they're not severely damaged. gotta love the starlings and the drongos that are never too far away. Hello, good morning, you. Look at your iridescent sheen. Glossy and glorious. We do get many different starlings out here, but this is the bird shows. The biggest. They are going into the drainage, into the Mawati. I wonder if we can loop round and possibly catch up with them. Let's do that, Beaks. I was on my way to Twin Dams anyway, because Tlalamba was seen there last night. It does not mean that she will still be there, but you never know. We may pick up some signs or tracks, or maybe even her. You never know. So we're going to loop around and see what else we can find.
Suspended above Kenya's Masai Mara is a breathtaking lodge where unrivaled service goes hand in hand with extraordinary wildlife sightings. Ngama Mara offers a quiet place where guests have the opportunity to reconnect with the world again. Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer before the end of July, and you and a friend could win a 3-night stay at this award-winning lodge. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature. The importance of forests cannot be underestimated. Over 1 billion people live in and around forests, depending on them for fuel, food, medicine, and building materials. The Wildlife and Environment Society of South Africa, WESA, is the national implementer for a program called LEAF. The LEAF program makes use of indigenous forests grown on school properties to teach pupils about biodiversity. This directly instills a sense of ownership of the natural surroundings and reconnects children with our biomes and heritage. WESA needs your help to bring nature back to schools. Ask your school to join the program through the link on their website. Together with WESA, you can help take this incredible program to schools across the country.
Okay, there's another big male coming in from our left here. Another big male, look at this. This is the one. Now you're going to see sparks fly, guys. Guys, it doesn't get better than this, eh? Yes, unbelievable. Africa, I love you, eh?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Good morning and welcome back to Bushwalk. At the moment we're sitting underneath a weeping boerbean, looking at all the seed pods, or the remains of the seed pods that's been dropped to the ground. Over the last few weeks, I've often seen grey go-away birds feeding from this tree and feeding on the seeds and then discarding the empty parts of the seed pod down towards the ground. It's not only the birds that like these seeds. Humans have roasted them for a very long time, eaten them, and they've even been used for the making of coffee. Something else that I've also noticed was a large amount of wood chips that are directly underneath a tree. And when we followed the tree up all the way, we actually discovered that there's a nest that has been recently created by a woodpecker. Now, there's two groups of birds in southern Africa that are responsible for excavating their own holes in the side of a tree, and they're woodpeckers as well as barbets. And both of these have got fairly stiff little tails that can prop them up against the side of a tree. And then also they've got toes that are pointing forward and backwards, so two forward and two backward, which allows them to cling onto these vertical cliff surfaces or onto a upright position on a tree. I find it also interesting that woodpeckers have a number of other adaptations which enables them to peck away at wood. And one of these is a very special type of cerebral fluid which absorbs the shock around the brain. They can also wrap their tongues around their brain, and then they've also got a very broad base to the bill, as well as a hinged bill between the skull and the bill to enable it to absorb all that shock. If it was us, we probably would have had to have a few headache tablets. So one of the bird species which often parasitize barbets as well as woodpeckers is some of the honey guides. And they also have evolved a strategy that they make their nest just small enough to prevent that these honey guides can easily get into the nest cavities. In general, I find woodpeckers to be quite an interesting group of birds, and we often hear them drumming away on the side of trees. Drumming is actually a mechanical way of making a call, and they do that to display territories. That's almost like the avian equivalent of Morse code. We're going to continue and go and see what else we can go and find. Good morning, Catherine, and welcome to the show. Yes, they are very hard workers, especially when it comes to excavating holes in the side of trees, but also to find enough food. So when they're also looking for food, they're constantly pecking away. And especially under cold conditions like this, animals have to eat quite a lot to maintain a consistent body temperature. Also, what I do find particularly interesting about woodpeckers is that they've got a number of adaptations to the tongue to enable to extract that little insect from out behind the bark once they've created a little hole. And some of them actually have got harpoon-like tips to the tongue, while others almost have sticky tips to the tongue, which almost works like a suction device that the insect will get stuck to, and then they'll pull it into the mouth. So we're going to continue and go and see what else we can go and find. Let's go and see what Tristan is up to.
Well, we're still trying to find what's causing such a ruckus. We've got impalas alarming in the block. We have hyena that's walked in, or ribbon to be exact, walking in the block as well. Was it ribbon or June? June, sorry. Walking in the block. So it's just like there's all signs pointing towards there being something here. We just can't find it. Where did you see it, David? Here on the road. Okay, I'll get out onto the road now. But we heard impalas in the block again now. I don't know what's going on here. I think June is trying to find, or ribbon, whoever it was, I think it was June actually, trying to find the same thing we are. There's just so many alarm calls. No, that's not gonna work. Just trying to find a way through here, David. Let's try and go around a little bit further. She wasn't on the road here. Joshua, you're asking how long I think my reefs will stay with Tundi for. Honestly, Joshua, I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be one of those situations where I'm just not sure. These impalas are very alert. All facing like this. They all came out of this block here. You see, David, they all bolt upright in here. I don't know if maybe that hyena came through this side and that's made them even more alert with all the alarm calls. This one's alarm calling. There's a hyena there. Nose down. I'm sure there's a kill here. This is where the impalas came from. It's where all the alarm calls have been. This hyena's nose is to the ground, and they are super efficient at finding kills, are hyenas. So I feel like just following this hyena for a bit will give us the answers we need. This is where I think it was. It's just here in this section. That's what I was saying to David. Let's go back to where the impalas came out the block, and look here, it is June, it's not ribbon. Let's check all the trees, David. June, we're following you. Use your nose. See how, look how June's sniffing? Don't look at us like we know. We don't know either. We're just as confused as you by the 75 million alarm calls that have been rolling around through here. Where the impalas came from, like I say, is a little bit south of here, so the direction she's traveling now is the right direction. I think there's a leopard on a kill here. That's what I think. See how she's sniffing? Look at how she's going back and forth. She will find it. If there is a kill, this hyena's nose will pick it up. Just trying to check all the trees just in case there's a leopard already up a tree. Is still down on the ground. I don't know what she's sniffing, but like I say, there's just been alarm calls, there's been no tracks, and then when you get impalas alarming like they were, as I was saying earlier, it's often an indicator of a kill. Now you get a hyena that comes in and it's got this nose to the ground the way that it does. It tells me that there's something that it's looking for. It could be other hyenas, it's possible, but I don't think so. I think it's more likely that she's picked up the scent of something else. You can see her nose is just down the whole time, and she loses it, and then she does like a circle and she picks it up again, and off she goes. And we know very well in this area that hyenas are animals that trail leopard regularly because of the kills that they make. It's very possible. I mean, it might not be the case, and maybe you're just following poor ribbon for nothing, but her nose being down the way it is tends to tell me that there's something going on. Unless, of course, they've moved the den. That could also be what it is. Because there's a den site that they've used before just up here. It's not that far. Alright, I'm going to try and keep up with her and just try and see if she guides us to anything or not. Let's see if we'll get lucky.
Good morning and welcome back on Bushwalk. Just been watching a squirrel that was disappearing into the tree, and then he went up, and then he's got another hole a little bit further up in the tree where he often pops out. Generally on a cold morning, if there is a sufficient amount of sun, he would be sitting in the sun heating himself up. Most animals will do that. So when we are walking, we were always taught that the earliest part of the morning when you are looking for animals are actually to look in the sunny spots. Well, later in the day, as it progressively warms up, look for animals rather in the shade. So animals will always move between sun and shade to increase as well as decrease their body temperature. So it's not only reptiles that are dependent on the sun, but mammals too. And it helps in some way to counter the heat loss. Another way that you can counter heat loss is by consuming food. And eventually whatever you eat gets burnt and converted into energy. Right over here, we can see that there is also some remains of some of the, what I know in Afrikaans is a WildEarth. I think in English it's called a spiny melon. And this seems to be one of the foods that he's been eating. I've also noticed if I look into a little hole, there's a number of marula kernels that are also hidden inside there. What we do often find is that squirrels will actually cache and hide food for later on when there is food shortage. However, they do sometimes forget about where they hide things, and sometimes you'll notice that there's something that's been hidden there for a very long time, and the squirrel has already forgotten about it. A few years ago, I used to often come and collect marula kernels, and I put them around my pot plants, so just to enhance little plants. And what eventually happened is that I was fighting with the squirrels as they were coming to steal the seeds from where my cycad was in the pot. Then I used to go and find them, and then I put them back, and a few days later they were all gone again. I eventually just decided it's best to give up.
Welcome back to andBeyond Pinda. Johan and I are still looking for this pride of lions. We managed to find where the tracks left the road and headed up this hillside. And you can see by the tracks how the youngsters have been running up and down, playing, no doubt chasing mom around, mom chasing them back. So we're basically now going to drive around this road, excuse me, that'll take us up over this hillside. We have another vehicle that's also looking for lions this morning. They're going to do the same loop, but in the other direction. And hopefully between the two of us, we'll be able to find where these lions have gone. I was just saying to Johan, we're in a part of the game reserve that I haven't been to very many times before. In fact, I think this might be the first time I've driven this road with guests in the back of the vehicle. Yeah. It's not a road very often driven, so have a look at it. It's basically just a game trail that's been mowed. Oh, it's just flown. It's just flown. There was a zitting testicular perched up on a little buffalo thorn next to the road here, but unfortunately it's flown into the long grass. Oh, there's another one up ahead, Johan. See if we can try and get that one. Let's see if we can try and get it on camera. Please don't fly away. There's also one in that buffalo thorn there. Oh, it's also just flown. Is the one still in the grass? Oh, it's going away into the long grass. That was a zitting testicular, very small brown insectivorous bird. Oh, there's one right next to us, Johan. Right next to us. On top of the stick. Oh, if we can get this on camera, it's going to be so nice. Let's see if we can try and get it. If it only will sit still for long enough. Oh, of course not. Murphy's Law. I'm just going to get my bird book out so that I can show you the zitting testicular. It's quite a common bird in the grasslands here of andBeyond Pinda. Also quite a common bird in many parts of southern Africa. So there is the bird up at the top there, the zitting testicular. So let me try and get it so that there's not so much of a shadow. And then See how the distribution map, quite widespread across the country, quite a common little bird. Can be quite tough to differentiate from some of the other cisticolas that have short tails, like the desert cisticola, the cloud, the wing snapping, the pale crown cisticolas. And the surefire way, unfortunately it's not going to happen this time of year, but in summertime when these zitting cisticolas are breeding, they've got a very distinctive kind of display flight that they do. They'll fly up out of the grass and they'll make this weird, zitting sound. It goes a bit like this. Zink, 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 zink. And they'll fly over the grass doing this display flight, and that's a pretty definitive way of identifying them. Okay, Johan and I are going to keep on going. I'm going to try and find where these lions have gone. Let's go back to Lauren. Apparently she's arrived at Chitwa Dam.
We've been having some laughs. The I also can't say that. Oh, this is one of the birds that you ever get a word that your tongue just struggles to get around. Elton was struggling a little bit, and I definitely struggle with that bird too. But let's not go there because we do have a magnificent pair of fish eagles. There's always one word in everybody's vocabulary, I'm sure of it, that you just constantly get wrong. You know the word, your brain knows it, but your mouth just wants to do something different. Well, that's it for me. Now, apparently Mareebs was found here much earlier on, but I wanted to scratch around Djuma first. I wanted to scratch around our very own property and see if we could come up with anything before racing on to another. And the sun has reached that delicious point, so I am wondering if he has probably most likely gone flat. It's been a cold night for all the animals out here, no matter what type of animal you are, no matter what species you are. So a lot of them will just be relishing the sun, soaking up the rays, just feeling a little bit warmer. And for Mareebs, that's normally sleepy time. But we will scratch around after we've enjoyed our time at the dam. We will see if we can pick up on any signs of anybody. I would really like to catch up with Kuchava. I saw Sabui not so long ago, but Kuchava, I'd really like to see her. Is that fish eagle eating something? It is too. Sorry, we're looking into the sun. It's feeding on something. I cannot see what. Well, you're asking, are they related to bald eagles? Not closely in that respect. They are an eagle. So yes, they are related, but geographically, they're found in quite different sort of areas of the world. So yes, I guess they are related. They're a type of eagle. But naturally, when you see the fish eagle, you do think of bald eagles because of the coloration. That's completely geographically separate.
Sorry about that, everybody. Apparently you lost a bit of signal there, Djuma, and unfortunately that is something that happens out here while we're trying to bring you a live safari from the middle of the African bush. Johan and I are still busy searching. We haven't gotten too far from where you last left us. I'm just checking this road carefully. to see if there's any tracks of these lions. Obviously, normally when here at andBeyond Pinda, when we drive guests around, we have a tracker that sits up on the front of the vehicle there, and they will then watch the road carefully for tracks, and we can then chat to guests and help to keep a lookout for trying to actually see the animal. But now with me and Johan and I by ourselves, we've got to kind of split the role. So every now and then I just hop out, check the road carefully to make sure there aren't any tracks of these lions. There aren't any tracks. There aren't any tracks on the road here, so we're going to carry on making our way up the hill towards where we last saw the tracks of the youngsters. You might be able to see there's a little tower up on the hillside up ahead, and we've spoken often about how we have a lot of anti-poaching measures in place. Oh, but apparently JP's got something to show you on Bushwalk at Prideland, so we'll send you across there.
Is that an anti-poaching lookout?
Yeah.
Good morning and welcome back to Bushwalk. We started doing our walk and started to see what we can go and find. The temperature has also increased slightly and the sun has popped out. As we walked, we actually found a large number of different dung of different animal species. And right over here, these small angular pieces, this belongs to warthog, which is one of my favorite little animals. Right over here, these that look like cowpats, they do belong to Cape buffalo, also known as African buffalo. And right over here, we've got the dung of elephant. If we look at it, we'll notice that it's got quite a coarse-grained texture to it, and it's got a wide range of different materials in it. Now, we often sit and wonder with all this dung, what is eventually going to happen to it? And the answer is it's going to be recycled back as nutrients and minerals into the ecosystem. During the summer months, one of the important recyclers of nutrients are actually dung beetles, who will break that down, they will feed on the dung, as well as that they will use it for breeding purposes. However, at this time of the year, probably one of the most important of all nutrient recyclers are termites. And if we look at right over here, we'll actually notice a number of tunnels that has been blocked up. And most likely when we start looking underneath, here we can see little tunnels, and here we can see how they entered the dung to start feeding on this. Termites are actually so important in terms of nutrient recycling that if we have to lose them, that we can potentially have a collapse of a number of different species within an ecosystem, as that their absence will have a severe knock-on effect. We also find that they don't only play an important role in terms of recycling of nutrients and minerals only, but as well when it comes to food provisioning. And species of animals such as aardvark and matabele ants are almost entirely dependent on termites as a food source. I'm just going to put this back where I found it, as I don't want to disturb them unnecessarily. When we also often start digging underneath the grass, which has died off and been trampled, just see if we can find anything over here. We'll also notice little entrance tunnels over here as well, where termites were coming in and out and feeding on the dead grass material. I also find it particularly fascinating that the termites actually can't digest any of these materials, and that they had to evolve a number of different strategies to assist with breaking the plant material down into a usable form which they can digest. So one of the strategies that they have is actually a relationship with tiny little protozoa that lives inside their intestines, which has enabled them to actually break down the plant material into a form that they can digest. The other way of doing it is actually by eating your own dung. And then they've also came up with an ingenious way of developing a relationship with certain bacteria or funguses that will break down the food for them into a usable form. We're going to continue our walk and go and see what else we can go and find.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to andBeyond in Ngala. As you can see right in front of your screens, There is a blue wildebeest just sitting there. How incredible. And I would also like to apologize. We've been having some signal problems, which is why we started a little bit late. Good morning once more. My name is Trico, and behind the camera I have Owen with me doing a fantastic job. I'm glad that everybody can join us and that we could join the show this morning. You can see that blue wildebeest just sitting there and just waiting. And mostly females do come out and about, and he feels like he has interest in them. He will try to keep them in and around that area because that forms part of his territory. And you can see there's a bit of a patch where he's sitting. So those little bit of patches, the patches that he's created, and he's actually created quite a few in and around of this area by using his feet or hoofs to scrape around and leaving his scent, because they have that piral gland in between their hoofs. And also sometimes you'll see them rolling around in that area and also defecating and making sure that its territory is marked. As you can see, looking so very relaxed. I'm actually quite surprised that this particular animal is sitting in the sun, and it's actually getting a bit warm. But then also there's this nice sort of cold breeze blowing through, so maybe the heat hasn't bothered him that much as yet. But I guess as the day progresses and it becomes much hotter, then you'll look for a bit of shade. But then also if you look at how he's laying down, laying on his sternum, if you carefully look in and around his mouth, you'll notice that he's chewing a little bit there. So he's pretty much ruminating, just regurgitating the food that he would have fed on earlier on and re-chewing it again. Very nice.
My name is Trishala and I am a naturalist and safari guide here in Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I think that the information that we provide, and most importantly the questions that you ask, give both you and I a really good idea of what's going on. My friend Fernando here, he's a flat-necked chameleon and I love them. They're just these gems that you manage to find in the bush.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, 2 to go. How cool is this?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
Well, unfortunately, we haven't managed to find anything in terms of ribbon. I mean, June following her nose, she just disappeared into a thicket and we couldn't keep up with her. So that didn't lead to much, but we have found the cutest sighting of 2 little baby elephants having a little sleep next to the road. They're absolutely exhausted and they've flopped down in the sun and are having a nice nap while the adults are all feeding around them. And it's very, very cute to see them having enough confidence with us being here that they're happy to lie down and sleep. It'll be interesting to see when Mom moves if they decide to get up and go as well. We haven't heard any more alarm calls or anything since we've been sitting here. It was a flurry of alarm calls for over an hour, and I just can't make sense of it. I can't find a single footprint that indicates something being around, so I don't know what it was or what's happened, but there's definitely something that's disturbed the area. You wouldn't say so now, though. It's as peaceful a morning as one could ask for. How long these 2 will stay down for? They look out, both of them. Yes, it's not that common with us being present that they go to sleep like this and that they decide that it's been too much of a day to carry on. Normally they kind of move off a little bit and not so close to the road as well. They're right up against the road. I'm worried though because it's on the main section of the road, so there's going to be cars coming up and down shortly. I'm pretty sure the staff transport will come through now. And it's on like a little corner, so you've got to be careful you don't go too fast around this corner. Really, it's not a common thing to see Ellies lying down like this with us present. I mean, they do it a lot. But generally when the cars are around the herd is a little bit kind of disturbed and knows that there's some big object in it. And that makes it difficult for them to feel safe enough to lie down. But this herd is so chilled. I mean, we've driven through them about 5 times today, trying to work with these alarm calls because it's all in the middle of this herd of elephants, and it's a big herd of elephants. And they obviously just are completely unperturbed by our presence. And that's why, with a bit of warmth and sunshine and, you know, a nice little comfy spot next to the road, it's the right place for them to have a really good nap. Must be quite pleasant there, just in that little grass with the sun hitting them. Perfect little napping spot. My mum's just feeding close by. She's not too worried either. She's taking it very easy, so. It's lovely. It's the cutest thing. It is pretty cute, isn't it? I like how the little one is lying next to its sibling. It was initially actually lying down much further away from that one, and then it walked over there, climbed on it. They had a little bit of a game and then lay down right next to it and fell asleep. And you'll find that they'll sleep like this, and then eventually when Mom's done feeding and doing her thing, she'll wake them up and they'll move on. But I think for now, Mom is quite happy. She's found herself a whole bunch of roots that she's busy digging up. You might hear it. Kicking sand all over the place. This time of the year they target these bush willow and terminalia roots quite heavily. Yeah, I haven't seen Fang for a while, but she was seen about 3 weeks ago, on Singita. So she is around. She likes the Sand River, spends a lot of time on the Sand River course. That's why we haven't seen. Oh, it's a big root, girl. She's just ripped out a monster root. Here's a tusk. She's just doing all the things. See how much orange is on her trunk from ripping the root. All that cambium is being deposited. It's not exactly quiet, is she, for her sleeping offspring? And imagine if you did that around human babies and made this much noise, they'd be awake a lot more than these elephants. Oh, David, we need that another alarm call now. Close. I don't know why we missed out today. I feel like we maybe rushed a little bit. Are you going to move off? That's a very long route that you've got. Almost looks like, you know, when kids eat sherbet, David, and they get their mouths get all stained. It looks like the same with her. Except I'd imagine this is a lot more healthy. No, Nancy, they feed on all kinds of fruits. It's not just marulas. Remember, marulas don't grow everywhere that elephants occur. So there's a number of different fruits that they'll eat. They've just finished with the torchwood fruits. And they love those. The marulas obviously get so much notoriety, but there's a whole bunch of different little fruits that they'll eat as they go about their day. Obviously, in winter it's tricky because there really isn't anything, but in the summer months they'll eat pretty much anything. And if they come across any sort of what we would call kind of domestic fruits, so things like oranges or those kinds of things, if they break out and get into farms, they absolutely love those too. So anything that's got good nutrient value and tastes pretty good and is non-toxic, they will most certainly utilize. Watch her use her foot now and her tusk. Isn't that amazing? Wonder how many times she's done that in her life. Just constantly breaking little roots, breaking branches, using her foot and her tusk in order to do exactly what she's just done now. You see how she's stripping that root. Look how it rolls around. Well, they come up pretty fast. When they're flat like this, it's literally they just pull their head up and then onto their feet. I mean, it's not as quick as a cat would be, or something like an impala, but it's not slow either. Sometimes they do it begrudgingly, though. It's like a kind of, do I have to get up? I don't want to. But if they have to and it's something coming their way, it's pretty fast for them to get back up. Look how she's completely stripped that root. Incredible. Difficult to listen to her crunching. It always amazes me how people find the sound of crunching trees absolutely fine, but crunching bone, something that they can't handle. At the end of the day, it's both living organisms that have been killed and are no longer feeling anything, but there's an equal amount of damage being done to their form. It's just weird how we connect a lot more with mammals and than we do with anything else. I always say if it has an eyelash, then people care more. If it doesn't have eyelashes, then no one really gives it much of attention. Anyway, we'll just sit here with this beautiful cow and her little one sleeping and see what they end up doing and whether or not these ones wake up when she starts to move off.
We're just heading to our next little water point. Although it's still cold, animals need to drink, and naturally congregations and sightings happen around waterholes. So we're just going to head there and stop. Maybe even see if we can see any birds. This is one of my favorite little water bodies. It's more a pan than a dam, but it's still one of my favorites, especially in summer. Maybe not so much in winter. Oh, lots of birds. Hello, everyone. Okay. We're just going to sit here. The more noise we make, they'll all fly away, and just enjoy watching all this action around the pan. These are actually two epic birds. In the foreground, the one that BK's focusing on is the brown-hooded kingfisher. And the one in the back that BK's now focusing on is the bittern. A dwarf bittern, I think. This is actually very cool. Two fishermen just hanging out on the branches around a water body.
Well, now two little ones, unfortunately, were woken up by a passing car on the access road. They're just very gingerly just walking off. They got up pretty quick, though, which was good to see. And now they're going back to doing elephant things, which is feeding and plodding along and providing food for fork-tailed drongos that are following them. And Mom is just, well, sitting in the middle of the road, still eating her root. She's slowly broken it down into very kind of fibrous pieces. It's interesting how she strips it first, then she lays it down, then strips and lays it down, and then she starts to crunch it and start to access that pulp. Yeah, see, that kind of squashes it down to almost like a fiber. Well, I think you absorbed most of it already. Yeah, there we go. now that her little one's up, she can carry on. Bluebird, exactly. At least Mom is getting some semblance of quiet time to herself. And you can imagine it must be a 24/7 job raising little elephant babies that are boisterous and want to move and do all kinds of things. So I'm sure she appreciates it when the little ones go down for a little bit and just give her a break to do whatever she likes, which is to feed and generally just sit and take it very, very easy. Anyway, they're slowly meandering off. I think what we're going to probably do is slowly meander on as well and see what else we can find. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Damon in Pinda.
Welcome back to andBeyond Pinda. Johan and I are still on our search for these lions. We haven't found any more tracks, but we did get a long distance view of a black rhino somewhere up on this hillside, and we've been trying to re-find it, but this area is so vast and there's so many dense guarri thickets that it's proving to be quite tough. We did see a white rhino cow and calf. Unfortunately, they ran away. See the wind. Well, you can see the grass now. It's moving. It's quite windy out here, and often rhinos can be quite nervous in the wind, and that's more than likely why she moved away, why she was so skittish. Excuse me. There's some buffalo up here too. Looks like a couple of older bulls that are busy grazing through the thickets here. Again, not so easy to see. Like I was talking earlier about the Kudu bulls and how the bush is deceptively thick, even though these guarri bushes are quite low growing. This area is quite dense and it can be quite tough to see animals, especially if the wind is blowing like this and if it's chilly. Most of the animals will go and try and tuck themselves away, try and keep out of the wind. But have a look at those gleaming horns. So ominous there in the long grass behind the guarri bushes. And just having a look through my binoculars at some of these buffalo, there's quite a few of them that look like they've got some pretty sparse fur on their rear ends. Unfortunately for them, some of them look like they are not in the best condition. Their hips are showing, their spines are showing. As part of the reserve, the grass is looking particularly dry and dead. And there's not too much greenery left. That may be why most of the buffalo herds have pushed in the direction of Mountain Lodge. You see that buffalo just lie down there? Oh no, never mind. You guys have still got one. One that I was watching just lay down into the long grass. And I wouldn't be surprised if the others follow suit shortly. Oh, that one's missing a horn. More than likely broken off. So see how there's quite a big helmet of horn on top of the head there? No doubt a bull. And he's probably broken his horn off in a fight with another buffalo bull. Just imagine the force that must have been exerted for that buffalo to have broken his horn like that. But we're going to see if we can't try and find where this black rhino has gone. And while we do that, apparently JP has found some more animals for you on Bushwalk.
Good morning and welcome back to Bushwalk. We're just located on a small journey of giraffe. There's probably some 7 or 8 of them that we can see. Some of them are obscured to the back of the vegetation. They're mostly females and their offspring that we've noticed so far this morning. And one of them is a really, really tiny little giraffe. I don't want to put any unnecessary pressure on him, and we hope that he's going to show himself. We generally find that when we do find a large number of giraffe females and their young. It's actually the young giraffes that has an interest in one another, and this is what's creating the bond at the moment. As in general, giraffe has no fixed social organization, and their aggregations are always of a temporary nature. I've just noticed that they've also been feeding on a wide range of different things this morning. Some of them were feeding on the knob thorns, which are flowering, and some of the others were actually flowering on the shepherd's tree, which we just have to our left-hand side over here. One of the things that I do find particularly interesting is, depending on the height, as well as many of the times the height of the trees in the area, but giraffes will create a very distinct browse line. Sometimes they will create a flat crown, sometimes they'll create this round impression as you can see over here, or sometimes a upside down or upright triangle. It's also very interesting to watch females. They tend to be more focused on the quality of the food that they are eating compared to the males that will just nibble here, nibble there, and simply focus on filling themselves up and then moving on. And the reason why the males do that is they simply want to focus rather on finding females, fighting off other males who might try and mate with those females, and then eventually mating with them. Where the females are more focused on being in top quality condition so that they can actually ovulate and reproduce, as well as that they've got a sufficient amount of energy to raise that calf in future. So to give you an idea, they carry for some 457 days once that they have conceived. And what I also find quite fascinating is that they give birth to a fully functional young giraffe, which can stand within minutes and start following the mother within at least 5 minutes afterwards. A lot of animals, such as lion, they're born in an underdevelopment state or condition where they're dependent on the parents for a prolonged period of time. If you think of lion cubs, they're born with their eyes closed, and only after 6 days it opens, and they're fully dependent on milk for several months until they can start feeding on their own.
Hi, I'm Dee from the south coast of England. Today I was told I have won the most amazing prize to go to Marataba. Oh, I can't believe it. I became hooked on WildEarth last year when I was trying to escape COVID, and animals are my thing. I just love them and I love what WildEarth does. So that's why I wanted to become an explorer. Just so looking forward to going out to Marataba. Want to do a walking safari. Thank you so much, WildEarth.
WildEarth Explorers. It's in your nature. As one of the industry's best and Fagasa Indoors training institutes, NJ Moorfield Guide College produces professional guides of exceptional caliber and gives students from around the world an incredible experience. NJ Moore offers courses to suit all types of interests. The full-length career course results in a Fagasa accredited qualification and the option of a 6-month internship at one of Moore Family Collection's luxury safari lodges. Shorter courses are a great introduction for those considering a career in field guiding or even a life-enriching experience in your gap year. With spaces still available in July, don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity to live your African dream.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth.
You're back with Johan and I at andBeyond Pinda, where we're still trying to see if we can't get another look at that black rhino that we'd spotted off in the distance. We found some white rhinos though in the meantime. Looks like a mother, that's the one that you can see there on your screen. And then see off to the right, there's a rhino that's slightly smaller than her. So more than likely her calf. And see how they're standing in these very dense guarri bushes. And I'd mentioned earlier that often this time of year when it's so chilly, rhinos will spend most of the evening, most of the cold of the night, they'll spend it tucked away in a thicket, out of the chilly breeze, and where it's normally a bit more kind of insulated, the branches hanging overhead, trapping a little bit more warm air at night. But then very often once the sun gets up, like it is now, they'll start to move around a bit more and come and kind of lie in the sun or try to warm up in the sun for a bit. And that seems to be exactly what these rhinos are doing. Look at that female there. See how she's standing quite still. She's not feeding. Just standing up, soaking up or standing and soaking up the sun. Look at her ears and how they're kind of twisting all over the place, listening. Every now and then just adjusting her position. Almost like a chameleon's eyes, those ears, how they're kind of rotating and twisting in all different directions. Make sure that you can hear what's coming, if there were to be something that were to be approaching them. And see how the calf, I know it's quite tough to see because it's very well concealed now by bushes, but see how it's facing in the opposite direction. Listening on this side. And see on the back of its neck there, everyone, see between the ears, there's quite a big hump. And that tells us that this rhino has actually lifted his head. He's holding his head up. Now, white rhinos, because they feed on grass, their heads normally hang low to the ground, and that's kind of like the neutral resting position for their heads. And if they lift their head up, it forms that big bunch of muscle up at the top of their heads there. On top of their necks, rather. And that's look, the mom is doing it as well. See, mom's also got that little bunch of muscle on the back of her neck. And that's a subtle difference that we can use to tell between white and black rhinos from a distance. We can't quite see their lips. The black rhino, because it walks with its head held out in front of it, and that's where its kind of neutral head position will be, because it feeds on twigs and leaves. Lovely to have found these white rhinos. Johan and I are going to keep on heading down this hill, see if we can't find any sign of where that black rhino has gone. And of course, we're still looking for this pride of lions. We're trying to find where the next set of tracks have gone. In the meantime, though, apparently the elephants that Lauren was with are having a drink at the Waterhole.
The same herd we had earlier. We've watched them pop out from the Mowati, and now they're drinking. It's cold, but they need to drink. Now, moments like this are very, very precious. You don't need to hear my Scottish tones. So I'm just going to be quiet and let you enjoy the Ellies drinking. Well, you're asking how many litres can they drink? It does depend on the size and the age of the elephant, but generally speaking, a sort of adult, maybe an adult cow and an adult bull, can pull in up to about 12 litres of water. 12 litres in one sort of pool. That's not throughout the course of the day. And the estimated figure is that the big bulls, not the youngsters, because they're much smaller. Are you sleeping? No, we're just relaxing. Sorry, the big bulls can drink up to around 160 litres per day. That's a lot of water. Can't even imagine humans drinking that amount of water. Oh my goodness. So it's a lot of water, and an adult with a fully grown trunk can pull in a lot of water in one sort of pool. And as you can see, they lose a lot. A lot of it can score. See, she just dropped some. They'll pull up about 12 litres in one pool, but then they need to keep topping up, and they do that all throughout the day. So the average sort of adult bull estimation is 160 litres. This is the exact same individuals that I showed you earlier. I know Tristan's with elephants, but these are the ones that were heading into the Mowati. Horse lover, yes they are. Waterholes in winter and summer. All throughout the year, waterholes are great for birds, for animals coming to drink, activity, and that's why we check them. Even if there's nothing drinking, there can also be activity around the waterhole. And then if you really can't find anything, there's normally always birds around the waterhole. But you won't find elephants having a pool party like this at these temperatures. It's very cold. But they will come to drink. Of course, they have to. Okay, we're going to scratch a little bit more around Twin Dams. You never know. And we are going to send you guys back across to Damon.
So Johanna and I didn't quite manage to leave these white rhinos because as we were driving away, we noticed that I had in fact got the story a little bit wrong. There's not 2 rhinos here, but 3. And see the one on the left and how much smaller that one is than the other 2 that we'd seen earlier. So I think what's going on here is actually this is still mum in the middle, and then the small rhino is her calf. And that third one is that, how we've spoken about it quite a few times before, but that satellite calf, a calf that belongs to another mother rhino that has kind of attached itself to this mother and her little one and kind of joined the group with them for a bit of company and for some added protection. Look at how cute that little baby is. Look at its eyes. It looks so relaxed in the sun. Tatum, you're asking how long a rhino calf will normally stay with its mother. In the case of white rhino, Tatum, normally kind of between 2.5 and 3 years, somewhere around there. And then what happens is that normally mum will mate with a male while she still has her calf and while the calf is relatively young. And then the time that she is going to look to start kind of isolating herself to give birth is about the same time as her current calf is reaching the age where it's okay for it to go off on its own, and then she'll push it away so that she can devote her time to looking after her new little one. And then her old calf will do exactly what the third rhino here has done, and it will go off in search of a rhino cow that has an older calf, and it will kind of follow them around. And sometimes you find several of these kind of satellite calves following one rhino cow and her calf, and then you get big groups of rhinos, 3, 4, 5 rhinos that kind of move around together as a unit. And of course, for a young rhino, even though it's still a pretty big animal, is a 2 to 3 year old rhino, but it's not yet fully grown, and it's still relatively, well, by rhino standards, still relatively vulnerable to attack by predators. Here at andBeyond Pinda, there are enough wildebeests and Ngala and warthogs, even zebra, kudu, impala, that the lions here tend not to try and go after large animals like buffalo. They'll sometimes go for giraffe and every now and then buffalo, but it's very seldom that they'll try and tackle much bigger herbivores. And that's because, you know, the risk of them getting injured is just that much higher if they try and tackle a bigger herbivore. So, yeah, but there still is that risk, and that's why that young rhino will go and kind of join up with another rhino cow and calf.
Good morning and welcome back on Bushwalk. We came to an open plains area where we were hoping to find some wildebeest, zebra and impala. However, it seems that everybody has moved into the thicket to avoid the wind chill. So what we'll do is we're just going to pan around with the camera and just share the landscape with you.
Another herd has arrived. I don't know if it's part of the same herd, I'm really not sure. I don't think so. And this one's also got a tiny little youngster. It's obviously just that time of day when you need a good drink. The small little ellie calves, they obviously can't drink anywhere near as much, so they normally sort of finish drinking first. They're not very good at using their trunk. They've obviously got small little stomachs in comparison to the adults, and they are smaller, so their water requirements are far less. But you'll see the bigger ones just drink and drink and drink. They need a lot more fluid in order to quench that thirst. There's a lot of waste when they put their trunk back down. Not all the sort of water that they pull up with their trunk goes into the mouth. There's a lot of spillage, shall we say. Bless me, everyone. Bless me. Sorry. Jim, I mean, you can see how they're responding. If BK zooms out a little bit, we're just on the other side of Twin Dams, sort of at eye level with them. And what you've got to remember is that a vehicle's nothing new for these animals. Maybe for the calves when they're very young and they're new to the world, yes. But for the older individuals, even leopards, even lions, vehicles are not new. They're very much part of this environment here. Whether that's right, whether that's wrong, that's not the point. They are present. Vehicles are present. Human presence in this area is here. It's not going anywhere. So we need to coexist on some level. And the cars are very noisy. Very, very noisy and really smelly. I mean, maybe not for us, but if you think of the fluids that go in, the transmission fluid, the brake fluid, the oil, the antifreeze, the fuel, these chemicals are very, very smelly. So these elephants will hear you long before you see them. Really, a long time they will know there's a vehicle coming. They will be able to smell you from great distances. So they're very familiar with the vehicle's presence. I mean, whether they like you or whether they don't is a different story. But if they really don't want to be around you, they will just move off, or they will posture and communicate to you through body language that they're not happy with your presence. Maybe they're angry at something else. Maybe you're too close. Maybe they're just not having a good day and they just want you there. So most of the animals are very habituated, and if they really don't want you there, they'll show you, and you've got to be able to have that ability to read body language and read the communication. But they know you're here long before you see them. You've definitely got the upper hand. So I think BK and I are just going to sit here a tad longer. We're going to send you guys over to Trico.
Welcome back, everybody. So we did finally get to our waterhole and see what we can find. And as you can see, it looks very, very quiet here. But quite a beautiful skies as well. A bit of patches of clouds and a bit of blue in the sky. Very beautiful day. Well, since there's nothing here, I think we will continue driving down the road and see what else we can find. So I'm thinking the next thing to do is basically head down into the Timbavati riverbed where it's nice and warm. Maybe we might stand a chance of seeing something. And as you drive, it feels like the wind has just started picking up even a little bit more. And as I said, I think maybe the chance that we have is down to that riverbed. So we're gonna loop up, head west, and then cut back south into the riverbed and see if maybe we'll be lucky.
We have another wonderful guest with us, Sergio Real. Sergio is a holder of the Ticket to Dream.
I bought a Ticket to Dream because I love WildEarth. All of the guides have been awesome. We've been watching for years, and it's a favorite part of my day to get to watch the drives. I look forward to seeing lots of leopards.
If you want to go on safari with a WildEarth guide, whilst honing your bush knowledge and of course featuring in one of our shows, then head over to our website.
My favorite part of the drive today was definitely an elephant that paid us a visit and came right to our car.
Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer and you could be making your first ever on-screen appearance.
It's amazing being on a live drive in Djuma. It's just fantastic. The scenery is beautiful and the animals are even better.
The Wildlife and Environment Society of South Africa, WESA, encourages people to care for the earth. Through innovative projects, they aim to reverse the serious issues that we face in the world today. One of these projects is Green Coast, a proudly South African award for sensitive and well-managed coastal sites. This sustainability project protects our national coastlines while providing unemployed youth with a love for their environment and a hope for the future. WESA is a membership and volunteer-supported organisation. Every supporter is helping to change the only earth we have. Visit our website to see how you can help care for our earth.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth Daily.
Well, no luck for us. We found the culprits, though. I'm pretty sure it's Shedulu and Tortoise Pan that are in the area that are causing this ruckus of alarm calls, because their trucks both come up this road towards the power lines, and where we've been trying to find where the alarm calls have all been coming from has been the power lines area. So I'm sure it's the two of them. I found where they defecated on the road and it was very, very, very kind of wet. So she cuts off quite far back, and then he keeps going quite a long way past where the last track for her is, but I can't see anything crossing out, and so they must be here somewhere. I wonder if they didn't make a kill and they just haven't hoisted it yet. I'll just have to come into this area and check around. Ooh, James, that's a good question actually. Probably Possibly the Mareeps Tundi monitor lizard sighting, just because of the fact that it was kind of that one after he'd been hit by the puff adder. So I think that was my favorite one. But tough, he's been giving us so many cool ones. That Shadulu tortoise pan sighting was pretty epic, albeit brief. The random dogs with Klalamba sighting, that was amazing. Shasha and Klalamba, nice sighting too. So yeah, there's been a few, but I think the Mareeps one, just because of the whole situation leading up to that and the sort of story behind that whole thing, would be my favorite of this particular stint. It's been a pretty jam-packed one. We've had a couple of quiet drives here and there, but for the most part we've done very well, and we've had a lot of good interaction between predators. I mean, you know, we've had all kinds of random stuff, and it's been a lot that's been seen while I've been here, so it's been really very pleasant. Pretty glad with this stint. It's been a good one in many respects, from an animal point of view. And like I say, I won't be gone really. I'm going to be on drive this afternoon just with guests, so I won't be actually away from Djuma. So I'll come back into this area and try and see if we can give the guys a hand, and maybe we'll get lucky and find something. This is where we first found June, and she just cut straight off the block here. So I don't know if maybe somewhere here there's something going on. We'll just have to try and see. You can see where my tracks go in following her. So we'll kind of scratch around, but yeah, it's definitely been a good couple of weeks, and like I say, I'll only be back in sort of mid-September, so let's see. I'm sure lots will be changed by then. Between now and then it will be time for Kenya, which will be very, very exciting. Anyway, I'm going to carry on. We're going to slowly head home. In the meantime though, let's send you across to Lauren to finish things up this morning.
Oh, Tristy, I'm going to miss you. I love our little team when Tristan's around. Like a family again. The Djuma family, isn't that right, lady? You beautiful, beautiful Ellie. Ellies are just so relaxed right now. Around the corner. Excuse you. I rounded the corner and there she was. I obviously immediately stopped, but they're very relaxed. I think she's got a little bit of gas. Yes. Gas is not nice, we know. Let's see if we can just go up ahead and get any better views rather than her bum. Just Ellies everywhere. I don't know if they're all part of the same herd or not. Of course, they communicate long distance. As long as there's enough adults to stay with the small calves and protect them, they can separate. You know, some may be thirsty, some maybe not. Some may be tired, some maybe not. I didn't catch that name, but yes, elephants without tusks would absolutely struggle to debark trees. But in terms of breaking branches and gleaning the leaves and pulling up grass, they use their trunk. All the muscles in the trunk. The only thing they really use their tusks for is really digging into that marula and tearing off the bark. So they absolutely would struggle. They wouldn't be able to do that unless an elephant has possibly already started it. And there's a little bit bark hanging off, they could come use their trunk and pull it further. Or if maybe there's damage to the tree in some other way. And then, of course, as long as there's that little... It's like when you're trying to get sellotape off a parcel and you just cannot find that bit of sellotape and you're trying and trying. As soon as you find that little tiny corner that you can pull, you can get everything off. It's exactly the same. If elephants just find that little bit of bark that they can pull with their trunk, then they can give it a go. But again, it depends on the tree, the type of bark. Marulas are fairly easy because they've got that ice cream scoop bark, which is what I always call it. But they need to find that little bit, that little hanger, and pull it. But they won't struggle to feed, they'll just adapt naturally. Animals just adapt. If they haven't got tusks to sort of start pulling away at the bark, then they just won't do that. But they can also stand next to another female in the herd and make use of them doing that. Elephants are not competitors in the herd, really. It's all about the herd life, so they will assist one another. But a tuskless individual will just adapt. They won't know life with tusks. They only know life without them. But it has come to that time of day, I'm afraid, where the sunrise safari has come to an end. All of that bumbling, it's now time to go home and most definitely get breakfast, which I'm quite excited about. So thank you everyone for all your comments and questions. We really couldn't do it without you. Otherwise, we would just be bumbling, talking nonsense to ourselves and our cameraman, which is definitely not that much fun. So please do join us this afternoon for another sunset safari. Until then, have a great day.